Hi, everyone. I'm Camila Keogh, a writer at El Decor, and to the far left, we have Guillaume de Saint-Léger, who's the VP of the Orient Express, previously a lawyer, oversees everything from legal affairs to talent acquisition to marketing for the brand. And Maxime Danjac, in the middle, is the architect who will be overseeing the design of the new Orient Express. Um, he started off his career doing scenography for Hermes, and since then has done many restoration and decoration projects from Guerlain on the Champs-Élysées to private apartments, villas, castles. So he's no stranger to luxury. So today we're going to be chatting about travel, the history of travel, the future of travel, and specifically within the world of luxury. So I thought maybe we would start by talking about our own personal experiences with travel, how it's influenced us. Um, for me, I think it's a really useful tool, not just in education, but in reconnecting with oneself and silence and um, learning about our surroundings and what's going on within ourselves. And I feel like the New Orient Express is going to be a great opportunity for many people to do that. So let me ask you first, Guillaume. I'd love to hear about what you think is most magical about travel. What do you think can be learned from it, and how does it feed the human spirit and mind?
Yeah, I think now working for Orient Express for 8 years. For me, it's really much about discovery, new culture, traveling very very far away. And because it was really like the spirit of that train, to cross and link different countries, monarchies, and empires, and to discovering countries and people that you would not know. So this idea of discovering for me is very important, and it still is in the brand today.
What about you, Maxime?
No, Guillaume say the truth as usually. So Orient Express is a really specific train and object because he opened a lot of frontier and he changed a lot of code and a way to travel. So it's really an iconic and mythic train and object.
I like your use of the word mythic there. So, to me, it seems that the Orient Express began and continues to be about connection between different cultures and different kinds of people. Can both of you share maybe one or two of your earliest or most distinct memories with travel that kind of have informed who you are now?
Yeah, of course. For me, when I was young, I lived in South America for 3 years. So my first memory around four is like when I arrived with my parents in Montevideo. We had to stay in a hotel for 6 months. It was a very old, and dusty hotel, but super cool at the same time. So my memory about that is this old and dusty red carpet, of these amazing stairs, but very old. So I think, it's something like very personal, but at the same time, for me, that's my first memory about travel. Not very exotic, but that's like the reality.
Me, I'm little older, so I have some different memory of different kind of travel. So one of my first memories to cross Mediterranean in a boat between Marseille to Tunis. It was extremely specific and full of dreams, smell, noise, and it's a really old souvenir. Or I used to take train to cross France, night train, when I was kid. So, in fact, I travel a lot, and at a time where travel was really different. No phone, no reservation, long wait everywhere. We used to that, and it's missed a little bit.
So maybe it kind of gave you a bit of patience.
It's not my first quality, no.
So that's funny. So for me, my earliest memory was when I was a toddler, and my mother took us to visit her parents in Benin in Nigeria, and they had this compound um, with peacocks and fruits and everything, and it was just vastly different from Ohio, where we were living when I was a child. So I think that informed a sense of, you know, you have no idea how much you don't know until you go see. So I'm curious, Guillaume. So the Orient Express came into use in 1883. Can you give the audience a bit of background on the train's history and its first years, and what its original route was? Like, what would the travelers, the first travelers have seen? You know.
So you have to picture the 19th century really as a very big momentum for the development of travel for your pleasure, and not only for commercial reason, political reason, which was the reason to travel before. Now you would travel for your pleasure, you know, to discover a new culture. So in 1883, the founder of the Orient Express is a Belgium engineer called Georges Nagelmakers. And it's quite of a funny story because he actually took inspiration from an American fellow that you probably know who is called George Pullman. He created actually night train in the US, mid-19th century. And so Georges Nagelmakers traveled in the US around mid of the 19th century, and he discovered those first sleeping cars. And so when he came back to Europe, he reinterpreted this concept, enhance the luxury positioning, you know, adding more comfort, adding the restaurant cars, adding the gas light on board the train, adding the hot water and everything, and that's how, you know, he created this fantastic luxury train. And it's also, so this train was not only at the time, you know, very modern, very avant-garde, a bit scary for some people because you also have to picture, you know, the mid 19th century, very Catholic in Europe, and so those crazy locomotive with these cars, you know, were like a bit scary. So it was a very modern train at that time. And the other element which is very important for the history of the train is the destination. So it was Constantinople becoming Istanbul at the beginning of the 20th century. So it was a train operating from Paris to Constantinople. And at that time, there were really a strong fascination for the Eastern culture. We call this fascination the Orientalism, which is the Western people being fascinated by Eastern cultures. And so it's really the combination of this incredible train reaching this incredible destination, you know, Constantinople, which was at that time really at the end of the Ottoman Empire. And so both this combo really made this train the most well-known train in the world because of, like, once again, this fascinating combination.
So to me, it sounds like from the very beginning, the Orient Express made a statement in terms of its radicality for both the brand and the design. So I'm curious how you feel you're going to be able to maintain that radical element, both in the experience of traveling and in the design of it.
Anyway, we have really to do the revolution. Why? Because in the car of Orient Express, you get 10 cabins and one toilet. So the way to travel change a little bit. So we have to change all the layout of a car, and we have to reinvent this kind of comfort on something narrow and extremely luxury. So we really do a kind of revolution in the layout. No one works so much in detail and got time to work on detail than we do. And we got also the chance to got all the archive, drawing, and all models which was used to do the first Orient Express. So it was a permanent revolution in the way to imagine the future travel by train.
And I suppose also in an age where travel is becoming less and less comfortable, perhaps also more fiscally accessible, that the Orient Express just will, of course, be radical because it's the epitome of comfort. Um, and I also do want to talk more about you digging through the archives and the research, but first, I would like us to share with the audience a bit about how the original train cars were found and refurbished initially.
Yeah, so it was a very big challenge for us because when we wanted to relaunch this iconic train, we had to find cars. You know, cars, original cars are very complicated to find. When I say original cars, I refer to cars that have operated into the Orient Express routes, and they usually have been built in the 1920s. So we we eventually, after 3 years of research, we found 13 original cars stuck at the Belarus border. They were there like for 10 years. And so we had to negotiate with the owner for 2 years in order to acquire these cars. So it was for us super important to base the project of the relaunch of this mythical train on original cars. And so in these cars, of course, we are going to keep all the most exceptional decor elements, which are the marquetries, the Lalique glass panels, and so on. But it's really the source of everything. The beginning of our project is to have found those exceptional cars hidden, really like in the middle of nowhere. And so it was kind of a fun story.
I love that there's an element of adventure, not just in actually traveling on the cars, but in the background too, and putting them back into operation. So, what elements of the initial experience do you think are important to preserve today, like in terms of the service that was originally offered? I'd love to hear more about not just the marquetry and the Lalique, but the other craftsmen that you've hired. Yeah.
There is a mix, so I will talk about the experience, you will talk about the decor. So on the experience, which was very important when the Orient Express has been launched back in the 19th centuries, was this permanent butler service. You would just, ring the bell and you would have somebody coming into your cabin. You had this exceptional cuisine on board the train, and it's funny because some of our guests were just taking that train, for between just like two cities without spending a night on board, just to experience the restaurant and the food of that train. So I think this will be two critical components of the future Orient Express train: is how you can create this exceptional butler service that can serve you 24 hours for anything that you like. And the cuisine is very important as well. We'd like to really have the gastronomy evolving with the landscapes and the countries you cross. So let's say if it is a Paris, Istanbul, then you will discover, Austrian cuisine, Romanian cuisine, etc. So I think it's part of our brand and DNA to really make you discover those new things. I'm not saying they are exceptional or good. I think it's just like novelty, and you just want to try them, and it's great. Once again, ties back to this idea of discovering new culture. Is super important for us.
And the craft, Maxime?
The craft. In fact, in the original Orient Express, they innovate on all points. So we need to do the same thing, and we need to find new people who will be the next Lalique or the next Suzanne Lalique, also Aviland, who works, and people working on wood, yes, but now not on all wood. We have to choose the wood. We have to source them, and we need to have all the information on that kind of stuff, which going to be seldom. So it was extremely complicated to find this new art craft and these new people. It was not complicated to find them, because we are lucky in France. We've got a lot of really good guys, And
So most of the craftsmen are French that will be working
they
on
are
the
all
train.
French, in fact.
Okay,
Sorry.
I love that.
And they are French, and some company are old because they already work on the first Orient Express. For example, the guy which is working iron and do the letters and a lot of things, it's an old company, and they were working in the beginning of the 20th century, and they are going to work on this one. So there is a kind of affiliation and the kind of continuation of history. And after that, we invent on a few ponts, we invent a kind of embroidery on wood, which doesn't exist. And we have the objective to really continue to innovate. No copy, no fake, the train, no fake. And for example, Lalique is doing a lot of things now, really in a good way, but they don't produce the kind of panels they produced 140 years ago. So we are not going to do the same panel if it doesn't exist. So we have the last panel of Lalique, so we are going to reuse it, but we are not going to copy them.
So I know, when we chatted a few days ago, you mentioned that there will be TVs on the train, but they're going to be covered so that you don't necessarily have to have that experience unless you want it. What other elements what other like modern elements will be put into the train but still be, you'll be able to still preserve this sense of nostalgia?
For example, technology of light is really important because the color of light and the technology of light change a lot. So we work on the color of the future light of the train, not to be too cold, not to be too modern, and to integrate them, not to be seen too much because 100 years ago the lamps were really big and different. So all the technology changed, but we try to stay connected and hidden the technology, wireless, and we work also on vibration, on sound, integration of future sound. And we're not going to hide TV. There is no TV. There will be kind of iPad or system, but there is no hidden TV on the wall as in the hotel. It's a real, we didn't want it.
Oh, okay. Well, I love that. Um, I'm also curious, you mentioned that the original car had the original train had like 10 booths on each car, and now it's going to be 3. Were there any other things that you absolutely had to shift from the original, like functioning things?
The two main cars which are really in the same line, we didn't change so much, is the bar and the restaurant. It's the same kind of kitchen. It's the same kind of performance for a chief to work in the kitchen and really doing good food. The same kind of number of chairs and anything. And what really changed are the suite and the comfort of the suite. So in this train, you will have your own toilets closed, which is seldom in a train. You've got a big shower. You've got a huge sink, some place to put your big case, which is not easy in other train. So you have to change all that kind of thing to really have a really cool and comfortable trip.
Now, I want to pivot a little bit and ask you, Guillaume, if it's not obvious yet, why did you feel Maxime was the best choice for this job?
You have to close your ears. No, Maxime is like first for me, which is like super important, is to be passionate about history, to have references. When you touch a myth, when you reinterpret a legendary train, for me it's the utmost complicated exercise because so many interior designer would have tried, to impose their style, in the train. That would have been the train of Stark, the train of like anybody. For me, it was a very big threat because the brand has to be above everything. So when I met Maxime, he immediately, like dig into the archive of the brand, trying to understand the history of that train, where it comes from, how it has been created, what is the personality of the founder of that train, which is like super important today. So he knows everything about history, about the Art Deco period, and what he did, like the design that you can see today, is exceptional for me because it's really you cannot put a date on that design. It could have been done in the 1930s, though it has been done today. And so it's totally reinterpreting the Art Deco style, but with like a modern vision. And for me, the most beautiful compliment that I can receive it's when somebody tell me, okay, so like the train was like that, it's like obvious, they just see that and they think that the train in the 1920s was like that, And for me, that's really like the success of this exercise to have been capable of reinterpreting a myth without, let's say, being dusty pastiche, but without trying to impose yourself, impose your name, and do something completely disconnected from the past. So it's really finding this edge, the right balance between past, present, and future.
So you wanted someone who could seamlessly link the past and the present, and incorporate quiet luxury, like a quiet kind of luxury, into the new train. That's what it sounds like to me. So I think also it would be lovely, Maxime, for you to tell us a little bit about the last 20 years of your practice. My understanding is that you've done some exquisite residential projects, from castles, villas, estates, private parks, basically the most kind of luxurious living one can have in the present day. Can you tell us a bit about what luxury means and looks like to you?
White program. For me, the first luxury is luxury of time. Time for conception, just time for execution also, and time to just to have the good idea. So someone have to pay for this time. So on that kind of project, uh, you need a lot of time just to do some mistake, do some research, do a lot of drawings, and the main point is you cannot have good details. And on this train, details are for the foot, for the hand, for the eye. You can touch everything. Every mistake will be immediately pointed from everywhere. So there is an amount of details that, to be honest, at the beginning I couldn't imagine it was so huge. So the client asked me for more details to go further.
And that's a pretty unique experience for you in your practice, do you think?
It's unique because, in fact, I never go
In depth?
no, no. So I try to go up now to come back, but we have few cars more to do. But as we got the music, we got the concept, we got everything. So now it's easy because we take the idea and we go up to the end with it. So it means that maybe we've got a success because we've got a really whole concept. So to answer your question, for me, luxury is time.
I have to say I agree wholeheartedly. So for this project, Maxime, what were your sources of inspiration? You mentioned the archive earlier, which seems like it's pretty exhaustive, Guillaume. What does the research process look like for you? How long did it take? What did you look at? What notes did you take?
So in fact, there is a few advantage to be old. So
Not that old.
no, but you read a lot, you travel a lot. So one day someone is coming and asks you to just give your idea with all your knowledge, and it's going easily. So the main inspiration was Orient Express because it's so rich. There are so much things which was done by the first Orient Express and the second one, and I have the chance to really go through in the archive and go inside. So, and after that, in the literature, in the movie, in the music, you've got a lot of things. So it was not so complicated.
So did you kind of immerse yourself in that period by listening to the music and looking at the art of the period while you were researching and designing?
In fact, I'm always I'm listening all kind of music, for example, but I could spend time with Cole Porter and the jazz of the beginning of the century, and going back on Prokofiev, Rachmaninoff, who was a great musician of this time, who traveled also in that kind of train. So, but we are not nostalgic at all. We got this inspiration, and we go through to this year, and we take everything.
Was there anything when you were digging through the archives that you were very surprised to find? Was there something shocking or funny?
No, I just find that a woman called Suzanne Lalique-Aviland works a lot on this train and didn't got the tribute she need for the work she did. So she worked on all the pattern of the train. She invented a motif called the motif railway, which was used on all the train with square. Uh, so she was really extremely good, and no one. Well, we don't talk enough of her.
Yeah.
So she was really rich and extremely productive for the train. So I was a little bit shocked that she was not on this place. We often talk of René Proux, who works a lot, but or Lalique, but Suzanne Lalique was really super good.
That's refreshing to hear you point that out. So, Guillaume, was there anything specific about the brand or the history that you emphasized to Maxime when you first started working together?
I think for me, part of the history of the brand, I mean, not really. I mean, I think, you know, when you, like, it was really like a match, you know, when I met Maxime, because like we speak the same language, we understand history, and we think that design has to be inspired and referenced. You cannot just create something from scratch and say, yeah, that's like the, you know, that's
Well,
what
it's dishonest when people say that because everything has a source, you know.
Absolutely, you know, and especially for that train, you know, you have to understand it in order to reinterpret it. So for me, it was discussion around the archives, discussion about the vision he had for the train, and when you have somebody in front of you that a few weeks after knows the history of the train, such as you know, for me it's like the best. It's the best gift, you know, because then you know that the exercise is going to be successful at the end. So I don't like to impose too many constraints to the designer we are working with. You know that we are developing the brand. We are also relaunching the brand in the hospitality industry. We are creating hotels. Our first hotel will open in Italy in 2024. We are creating other trains as well. Each time, I do not ask designer, you know, to design exactly the way, you know, I would think, you know, it's for me. It's each time it's like a new meeting. It's a new encounter, and I like a designer with his own personality, you know, to think and to reinterpret the myth, because like in the myth you have so many angles, you know, and you have so many doors, and so that's why it's a very rich history, you know, and so that's what I like, you know, to also give the floor to Maxime, you know, to also reinterpret that trend the way he thinks, you know.
So, how long will it take you by the end of this whole process to have designed this train, Maxime? How many years?
In fact, I began to work last December. We didn't sleep a lot, and we are going to present 3 cars at the Olympic Games in Paris. One car of suite, one restaurant, one bar. and it will be on track in 2025. So it's part of the work because we are on the back of everyone. We are doing as they was doing 100 years ago, means we are going in the art craft guide atelier. We are looking to the industrial process. We are pushing everyone. We are counting the money. We are yelling about time. We don't stop.
That's impressive. So, how many travelers will the train carry in 2025? How many can it carry? How many passengers?
So we'll have, in the future train, you will have 32 suites, so 64 passengers on board. You will have cars with 3 suites, cars with 2 suites, and the amazing presidential cars that you can see in some of the images, which is a full car with just 1 suite. So with a living room and dining room, bedroom with an amazing bathroom, with a bathtub and shower. I mean, it's like kind of a crazy car, this one. So 64 passengers.
I'm having a lot of fun imagining who might book the presidential suite. You mentioned to me that there were some very illustrious characters who traveled on the train in past times, like Agatha Christie and Josephine Baker. Who, this is a bit of a surprise question, who would your dream passengers be today?
It's an interesting question. It is true that you had amazing figures who traveled on board that train. You mentioned Joséphine Baker, Laurence d'Arabie, Mata Hari, Coco Chanel, and like so many. I think they all have in common to look, to have this freedom, to being open-minded to new culture. I think for me, it's if you would transpose this personality today, they would be very eclectic. They would be somehow a bit like crazy because all of these persons at that time they were a bit crazy and to travel on board that train. You have to picture traveling across Europe. For the first trips, men were asked to wear a gun on board the train because it was kind of dangerous to cross Europe. It was also the first time a woman could travel alone on board a train.
Scandalous.
Yeah, so you had all these like crazy character, and one of them, of course, is Agatha Christie. She took the train many times. She met her second husband on board the train, so it gives you a bit how it was to travel on board that train. This notion of freedom, of traveling alone, traveling far away. So definitely we would look for those crazy people today that are.
So there's going to be some space for romance on the train too, I'm assuming, Maxime.
Yes, in fact, they used to say what happens in Orient Express, stay in Orient Express before Las Vegas.
Love that. I believe it too. I'm imagining a lot of artists, a lot of like leaders, curious people.
Yeah.
So where will the train go and how long will it take to get there?
So it will be a Paris-Istanbul train, and we will take the northern route of Europe, which is going through Vienna, Budapest, Prague, and so like the big novelty is that it will be a cruise train. So the train will stop every day from 3 to 5 hours, and you will experience some amazing visits of the most exceptional castles. For instance, we will stop to visit one of the castles of Louis II de Baviera. You might know Neuschwanstein Castle. And so all of our challenge is to make sure that the castle will be privatized for our guests. So it's really not only traveling on board the train, it's also discovering the most exceptional cultural place of Europe, places that you would not necessarily go, because there are so many things to see. But another example is this incredible winery in Hungary called les vins du Tokay wines. It used to be called the wine of kings and the king of wines, because this wine was experienced and drank by Louis XIV, Louis XIV, and so on. So it's also rediscovering things that might have been forgotten. And with that train, you know, you will discover the great Europe, and some of the places are super hidden, you know. So it's going to be fun at the same time
So you're
outside the train.
organizing some programming basically for the
Absolutely,
passengers.
absolutely, yeah.
Wow, that's exceptional. I can't think of anything that's equivalent to that currently. How do you both hope the train will be activated by the passengers? How do you hope that they interact with the space? What do you hope that they discover while on the train?
Encounters, romance. I mean, for me, it was really the central piece of the experience of that train is that you would meet new people, because when you travel on board the train is very small, huh, by definition, and you spend your day between your private cabin and the restaurant car or the bar car. So definitely you would meet new people. You would, and when you travel on board the train, we used to feel that the first night is a bit like, you know, you try to you behave, everything, everybody's a bit shy, but like the second night, like your best friend with everybody, like you know, lots of alcohol and like champagne on board. So I mean that's like the reality of the train.
And
A
there is-
party
Encounters.
train.
And there is
Yeah.
there is a piano in the bar. So this piano could be jazz piano or a small classic trio. So musician could go up in Budapest and go down 3 hours later, just playing in the bar and have really good music.
So maybe there'll be dancing too.
Maybe.
So my last question for you both is, what are your hopes for the future of travel?
For me, and this is a big thing within our brand today, is the sustainability, of course, because we have the chance to be known for being a train. So train is really the part of the future of a sustainable luxury travel, and not only train, because we are also assessing different other means of transportation that are sustainable as well. So for me, it's really important to reconcile ultra luxury with sustainability, and in somehow we are very lucky because we've been born with like a train. So definitely it helps, and it shows the path to really develop the brand and how to develop it.
Same thing. Just find back just the wait, the time of just wait, spend time, not to be on a rush, and to to rediscover the time of the travel. It's not only the fact to go point E to point B, and but just to rediscover that time.
And be present in the moment, yes. Okay, lovely. I'm very excited. Um, I think it'd be nice to open it up to a few questions if anyone has anything to ask either of these gentlemen. Wait.
Hi, I did have one question. Who do you think is your primary target demographic for this experience?
US.
Oh, us. Hence why we're here.
No, it is very, so it's actually, to be more precise, British people and American people are the most passionate about trains. So because of history, and because, or maybe I don't know, this vision about the golden age of travel, and you are very close to that notion. So definitely, what we call in our industry the key feeder markets are US and UK.
Another question?
Hi, I'm just curious. I mean, the trains in Europe go really fast. Your train, what pace is it going at? Like, what's the speed, more or less? Are we going, kind of casual, or are you moving fast from one city to another? Like, what speed is that train at?
So the speed, not too fast.
Okay.
We try. It's funny because we have our engineers trying to pushing the speed of the train. So they say, "Yeah, Guillaume, we can do 160, like 180." I said, "No, guys, no. We want to go slow with that train. So let's say 100 kilometers is nice." But in fact, the reality of the operation, railway operation, is that you're pushed behind by another train that needs to run faster than you. So let's say we try to target 100, 120 kilometers. Because beyond that, it starts to be a bit shaky. So you really want to have a good experience, dining experience, sleeping experience, so not too fast.
And I think we have time for one more question.
Sorry, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, how many? Oh, I'm sorry. How
We
many
will have
days does the whole
You're
trip
right.
take?
We will have a program with like different length. So it will be, let's say, between 2 nights, and the maximum will be 10 nights. So it will be Paris, Istanbul, and return. Will be 5 days. One night in Istanbul, and then five days to come back. But like, if you like do it, it's kind of a it's kind of a like challenge, because 10 days on board a night on board a train is kind of exhausting. Anyway, for like the big fans.
Thank you guys so much, and thank you, Guillaume and Maxime.